what is the Reformed Christian perspective on steroids, or what is the Reformed theologian perspective on steroids? What's up, Truth? This is Ben, and if you haven't already hit the subscribe button, go ahead and hit subscribe for me if you would. It really helps out with the channel. Now, I want to talk about something controversial, very controversial, for a few reasons. One, because the topic I'm going to talk about, well, the product is illegal. Well, technically illegal, at least without a prescription. And two, because it wanders into a gray area in Christianity. Now, I'm going to be offering what I feel the Reformed perspective is. And what we're going to be talking about today is steroids, PEDs, injectables, orals, performance-enhancing drugs, right? You've probably heard about these. And I'm talking about this because obviously we just had the Olympia. And congratulations to Big Ramy for winning his second title, and to Chris Bumstead for representing the classic physique. He did great. Everybody looked, Breon Ma looked good. He's always looking good for classic physique, and some of the other guys. I don't believe Rolly Winkler was there, and I'll throw some pictures up on screen here for you guys. But I want to talk about steroids and what is the Reformed Christian perspective on steroids, or what is the Reformed theologian perspective on steroids. Now, I guess I should just say what is my Reformed perspective on steroids, because steroids, in my mind, and when I look at them, are kind of a gray area, right? In Reformed theology, there's a lot of people who have more gray area for things like alcohol. Is it okay to have a couple drinks, to have a few beers, right? That's kind of a continuing discussion that is in Christianity that is always going on. It always goes on, and it should always go on, right? There should always be some pushback from each side. You know, what is too much? What is not enough? What about personal responsibility? Things like that. And I would argue that for the Christian, steroids fall into that gray area for a few reasons. One, because steroids are, well, they're illegal without a prescription. But if they do have a prescription, it's not illegal. And especially for men, things like testosterone it's being prescribed more and more for men, especially men that are kind of getting into my age range. I'll be 34 this month. People that are in their 30s or 40s or 50s or 60s, as you kind of become a senior citizen, as you age, right, your body starts to break down. Your bone structure starts to get weakened. Your muscles break down. It's harder for you to build muscle. It's harder for you to have energy. It's hard to do everything as you get older. I'm experiencing that right now. Not that old, but I'm at the age where I'm starting to feel it. Now, you start feeling what age becomes. When you're in your teen years and your early 20s, you don't really understand the aging process, and you don't understand how the body breaks down, how it has a hard time building muscle. And one reason is because of low testosterone. And so your body doesn't produce as much testosterone as you get older. It's harder for you to obviously stay active, build muscle, just everything physical starts to slowly break down, but also just stop enhancing itself, right? So you can insert something like testosterone with a prescription. You can inject it, and that helps your body, right, to build muscle and to continue its normal focus, right? Its normal day-to-day routines. And so for me, a thing like testosterone, I don't think there's any moral objectivity to it. I think that things like testosterone, some PEDs, some steroids are okay for the Christian person. Now, as with everything, obviously, in America at least, and other countries, steroids are legal in some sense. Sometimes it's a class 2, a class 3, class 4. Some things you can take, some things you can't, some things can be bought. I think in Canada, it's legal to own steroids, but it's illegal to sell steroids, I believe. Follow Greg Doucette for that. He does a lot. He's a Canadian and a bodybuilder. He talks a lot about things like that and laws in different countries and how they work. But in, for instance, like England or Saudi Arabia, which is where Big Ramy and a lot of these guys train, steroids are not illegal. They are legal in America, but I think they have been misclassified. I think that the FBI, the FDA, whoever is in charge of the laws concerning steroids have made an error here. So do I think that there is an issue with steroids? Kind of. Let me explain. Like I said with alcohol falls into a gray area, right? And, well, can a person drink alcohol? Yes or no. Can a person do this or that? Well, yes or no. It depends on the individual. Some people can't handle alcohol. at all. Some people have been alcoholics in the past and now they're sober. One drink will push them over the hedge. So for them, drinking alcohol would be sinful. But for other people who just want to have a couple drinks at night, or who want to, have a couple of drinks with some of their friends, who are, Christians and who are secure in their faith and are mature, is there a problem? Well, no, I wouldn't say there is there. Well, it's the same thing with steroids or PEDs. Now, obviously, there are excesses, right? Being an alcoholic is on the extreme end of alcohol. Well, on the other hand, for a lot of people, if you get into an area where you're taking things like trenbolone or equipoise, and you're taking in large amounts. I mean, if you're taking tren and you're doing 700 milligrams of tren and you're doing 700 milligrams of test, because you got to stack tren with your test base, right? Because if you're not using a test, you're not doing anything. And so you got 1,400 milligrams or 1.4 grams in your system. That's a lot of steroids. It's a lot of steroids. Anything over a gram's a lot. I mean, just 700 milligrams of test on its own is quite a bit if you understand dosing and things like that. And then, of course, you got the test Deca D-ball stacks where people are stacking like that. Now, even like speaking about it right now, if you're just like, well, is Deca test D-ball taken, is that sinful to take? Well, it depends on the person. I mean, I wouldn't advise it, because you're taking a bunch of steroids that are combating with each other, and you have to worry about estrogen and your estrogen production. Are you taking an AI to suppress estrogen and things like that? And there's guys that are way more knowledgeable than that than I am. There's a guy, Derek, at More Plates, More Dates. He's got a YouTube channel. These guys I'm talking about aren't Christians, by the way, but they are very knowledgeable. So just be aware that there will be profanity and things like that in their videos. But their knowledge base is very good, and it's been very helpful to me. And people like Greg Doucette and Derek at More Plates, More Dates, and just a lot of other professionals that I've seen on YouTube, and even some people I've interacted with on social media and through Instagram, some pro bodybuilders and stuff like that. When I speak to them, and when I've sat down to think through the topic thoroughly, theologically, is there an issue with steroid use for Christians? In a general sense, I would say no. Now, I've never used steroids before. Obviously, I don't think I would ever try to do that, especially without a prescription, because of its illegality. It's illegal. Can't say that right. But I don't have a problem with people taking them. And if you're a pro, if you're a pro bodybuilder, if you're an IFBB pro or something of that nature, obviously it is your job to have the maximum potential in your physique, right? So you're going to be using more steroids. It just makes sense. The same thing as if somebody is a Christian and they're a NASCAR driver, they're going to have the best equipment for their car. They're going to spend a lot more money on it, probably millions of dollars on it. They're going to have sponsors, and they're going to have all these other things. And so there's not an issue with that. Whereas if you were just a regular person who's spending all your money on car parts, and you're not in part of NASCAR, and you're spending, your bill money and your children's allowance and all that on, buying car parts, then yeah, that would probably be sinful, because you're neglecting your husbandly and Christian duties. Whereas somebody in NASCAR has a lot of money, it's not a big deal for them because they're doing that as a career. I would say the same thing in bodybuilding. Now, of course, I think there are limits where you move into the realm of sin, right? We've all heard horror stories, unfortunately, of pro bodybuilders and, just online fitness personalities that have taken it too far. There were a couple of years ago, Rich Piana and Dallas McCarver come to mind. Now, Rich Piana was an interesting person, very obviously not a Christian, used large amounts of profanity, but I always found him at least interesting for two reasons. One was because he was very motivating, at least in his videos. He had a lot of things going on behind the scenes, but his videos, the way he promoted people to always strive for their best, it was very encouraging. And two, he was very open about steroid use, and he shared a lot of knowledge about steroids. Now, I didn't always agree with everything he said about steroids, but he was always very open with it. And he was one of the few people in the beginning years who were open about their steroid use. But he obviously was using way too many steroids. There are people who've broken down his steroid use on a weekly basis, and it's Ryan Ankrum. Go to his channel. I think he broke it down, and he was using thousands of milligrams, and he was using Test and D-ball and Tren and Equipoise and Anavar and Winstrol and Masteron, and then he was taking AIs, and then it's just like, and the dude was 400 pounds. He was huge. He was just a heart attack waiting to happen. And then unfortunately, he's with his girlfriend getting his hair cut, his eyes roll back in his head, and that's pretty much the end of him, unfortunately. Dallas McCarver, a young guy in his 20s, taking massive amounts of steroids, trying to get on the Olympia stage, trying to win, was killing his body, rotting it from the inside out, passes away at a young age. And so there are always those stories, but those stories are the extremes. And every time you hear a news story or somebody in the mainstream, whatever, speaking about it, they always talk about the horror stories, but they don't talk about the benefits of it, how it can be used, people who just take it every day, and how there's just a lot of mismanagement of information concerning PEDs. And a lot of people do use them incorrectly, but there's not a whole lot of information out there. Now, I have to stress, first off, that I'm not a doctor. Second off, that this is just my opinion. So I'm not saying do this or don't do that. I'm just talking through my opinion on this. But my opinion, and the opinion of most people, is if you're young, do not touch steroids. If you are a teenager, don't be an idiot. Don't touch steroids. If you're in your early 20s, don't touch them, because your body has not finished going through puberty. You have not matured. Your testosterone production and the way your body produces all of these different hormones, your hormonal balances are going to be thrown off, because if you start at an early age, especially if you start in your teen years, and you start taking testosterone in your teen years, right? Your body is still growing. You're still going through puberty. Your body's trying to figure a set point for testosterone. Well, if you're interjecting or injecting an outside testosterone base into your body goes, oh, okay, I'm receiving this testosterone from somewhere else. I don't need to produce it. That can stunt growth. It can stunt the way your mind progresses. You can stunt your mental health, your mental stability. And there's a lot of people who do wrong. They'll take D-ball only, and they're taking 30 milligrams of D-ball, 40 milligrams of D-ball, and it's an oral, and they're throwing it in there, and they're not stacking it with a test base. So then their estrogen is all thrown off, and then they get gyno, and then they have all these issues. And then they're young, and then their body just stops growing and producing on its own, and then they, and then they're 18, 19, 20 years old, and they have ED because they don't have testosterone flowing through their body, and their hormonal balance is just shot to death. And yeah, so I'm a lot of ranting. There's a lot more that could be said about that. Go to those other channels I mentioned. They'll talk about it. If you're a young man or a young woman, stay away from them. And like I said, I'm only 34. Well, I'll be 34 in a few weeks here, and I've never used them. And I think that's probably a smart thing for most people to do. Wait at least until you're in your late 20s, probably your 30s, before you go and see somebody to speak about it. Now, make sure, if you're going to go do this, be smart and get some blood work done. You're going to want to go to a TRT clinic or an HRT clinic. You want to get your testosterone looked at, your free testosterone, your estrogen. You're going to want to get your, LDL and HDL looked at. You're going to get all that tested before you decide where to go from there. But if you do decide it's something you want to implement in your life, I don't have a problem, and I don't see a problem in Scripture, right? Obviously, we hold to sola scriptura in the Reformed community, and I don't see an issue with testosterone in Scripture. Now, I would see an issue with lots of things like illegal drugs, heroin, cocaine, things like that, certain behaviors. But as for steroids, I think they fall within the realm of Christian liberty. That'd be my 2 cents on it. So I hope you guys like this. Subscribe to my channel. It's Primal Truths. My name is Ben. Thanks for stopping by. And let's put down in the comments down below if you're a Christian, especially if you're a Reformed Christian. I'm curious what Reformed people think about this. What is your opinion on PEDs? Do you think they should be allowed? Do you think they shouldn't be allowed? What is your information for that? Where are your sources? Where do you get your knowledge from, your education from concerning steroids? Have you used them in the past? Well, you don't have to put if you used them in the past. You don't want to incriminate anybody that doesn't want to be incriminated. But just let me know in the comments down below what you think about this. All right, thanks for stopping by, guys. See ya.